Hey, Dr. Drew here, and this is just a reminder that the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care or medical evaluation. This is purely for entertainment and education. We hope you learned something, but see your doctor, get proper medical care. Hey, this is Dr. Drew, and you were listening to This Life
with Bob Forrest
and Dr. Drew.
Here we are.
First of all, Bob's going to do the magic intro.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get your iPhone plugged into the power source so that you can watch us on Facebook Live and welcome us and Shelly to Dave Navarro.
Hey.
He needs a microphone, but he's here.
He's here. There he is.
I got nothing.
There
we are.
he
There
is.
you are. Thank you very much.
All right.
Happy to be here.
Couple intros. Phone number, if you want, we're going to take your calls at 323-649-8268. Those of you out there on Facebook, 323-649-8268. Tell your friends we're taking calls. Dave will talk to you. Shelly will talk to you. Why am I hearing feed? Oh, it's
my own phone, and I'm watching us. We're so good, I can't not watch us. Okay.
I understand. So, Dave, I also want to, before we even get started here, I want to point out that Dave has an amazing event coming up on April 16th. You want to talk about it? You want me to talk?
You want to do a lead-in? Because it sounds more pro coming from you, and then I'll be like, yeah, it's going to be great.
And then I'll do a brag-in.
Okay. Billy Morrison.
And then I'll follow up with the bragging.
Billy Morrison, Billy Idol, Courtney Love, Corey Taylor, Jesse Hughes, all for a mental health charity concert. The event will take place April 16th. In Los Angeles at the Belasco Theater. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah. Beautiful place.
I will be there. Bob, Shelly, please be there.
You guys got to come.
Oh, 100%.
And it's funny that Dave came up with this right now because you and I have been sort of tilting in this direction, which is that the mental health piece is sort of getting overlooked.
We have to get out there.
Yeah.
We have to get out there because we cannot afford any more nonsense on any level. We can't afford it. We have
that's exactly
to do
the way
it now.
I feel like I'm sick of this.
Right now.
Dave is smirking, but
no, I was thinking I need to hire Shelly as our spokesperson.
I can't take any more.
I'm really impressed.
Nonsense. I can't take it. I cannot have
It's the homeless
take-
population. And
Don't bring up the homeless.
because then my head will explode. But the point is, all of it's all symptoms of what she's talking about.
Exactly.
And I've had
including Florida.
We have to stop
including
it.
Florida.
What's it? What, the state of Florida?
No,
school
the
shooting.
shooting.
The school shooting. I beg your pardon.
Jesus,
Yes.
what planet are you on, Drew?
Absolutely. What's that, including Florida?
We have to do
That
something.
kid was crying
Yes.
out for help,
Yes.
and the community was saying, this kid
There were
needs
tons
help.
of 911
And there was
calls.
nothing.
And
39.
39
to be
calls.
exact.
39 calls.
39 calls. He was deemed low risk. Not
Oh,
in
you
not
can't
in my
laugh at
treatment
40,
facility.
40, they take a notice.
He was not he would have not been deemed low risk in my facility or by me.
However, you two, working clinically as we have for many, many years, know that there's this zone, much like when cops go, well, I can't do anything until he actually hits you or he actually shoots at you. Mental health has a similar zone.
100%.
If you're not saying, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to kill somebody else, I can't feed myself, we can't do a lot. To mandate care to people that don't want care. And that, to me, is a major, major problem.
Major problem. We have to change. We cannot continue to go on the way that we're going on. We have to have change. We have to have change on every level. We need all involved to have change. We have to come up with ways and means to help people,
But
to
also-
not demonize them
But Shelly,
for
also,
being ill.
Of course, and we're talking about mental health, and obviously mental illness
all
falls under that
drugs.
category.
Yes.
And what falls in that category. But I'm also trying to be a proponent of mental health,
Globally.
even for people who aren't ill.
Absolutely.
A connectedness, more of a spiritual basis of life.
Now that I want
that
to get into.
we can touch
Compassion.
upon. Compassion.
Absolutely.
Love, forgiveness, these kinds
Oh,
of things.
forgiveness does not exist in the United States of America anymore.
Oh,
That's a
Well-
word that you don't hear very much.
It's like expect.
you don't hear it very much, but you hear it.
But I mean,
did hear it.
even self-care
Self-care.
falls into the category for
People
me.
laugh at self-care.
I know,
they make
but
fun
I mean,
of
at
it.
this
I
point,
talk about it all day long.
They don't listen.
Okay,
you know
but
that.
maybe they don't listen, but I'm going to keep saying it.
so I mean,
But
certainly
let me
we,
do the bragging about Dave.
All right.
They are daring to do something that's almost impossible. To do the Velvet Underground, many
God.
people have done Velvet Underground,
Yes.
but to do Adam and the Ants, Kings of the Wild Frontier, is impossible as a musician. That's why I'm going.
It's
because
impossible.
I want to see you do it.
I'm so
It's the
excited.
effort. Well, we got two. Okay, first of all, I put it this way: for
Okay.
Kings of the Wild Frontier,
Yeah.
both these albums were huge albums. Kings of the Wild Frontier and Velvet Underground with Nico, huge albums that kind of formed who I became as a musician.
Myself
in
as
a
well.
lot of
Me
ways
too.
And Adam and the Ants was the first record that was kind of in the new wave genre that got me out of hard rock and into like more current music at the time because it was so guitar heavy and because the tribal drumming. Marco's unbelievable. And so then there was so much tribal drumming, which in turn influenced Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction, which led to a massive component to the Jane's Addiction sound that a lot of people don't really know. So when Bob's talking about doing that record,
Really hard.
you need two drummers. You need a lot of vocals because you got all the overdubs on the vocals, and we're covering all that stuff
Live.
live.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna
ho.
and then we're gonna close the curtains, and then we're gonna come back and do Velvet Underground with Nico, which is essentially
Wow.
a completely different set production wise, and it's gonna have to be different instrumentation and amps because
Completely different
one
sound.
the record was recorded 20 years prior to the other one. So we're trying to tackle both records, but the initial idea came about obviously because we've lost a lot of friends over the years. And I personally struggle with depression. I have a lot of friends who do struggle with depression. And me and Billy were having a conversation, and we were talking about those things. And in the same breath, we started talking about how much we appreciated the full album experience, where you didn't have the opportunity to skip the song that you didn't want to hear.
that
Yeah.
you weren't ready for yet.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, now people
Well, those
just...
two albums, neither one of them have a hit, but the whole albums are masterpieces.
Exactly. And so the experiential process of listening to the album, getting up, turning over the side, listening to the other side, we just missed that. There was more of a physical, visceral connection with music back in those days. And so
I remember trying to drop the needle on the right, the right side.
oh yeah, I still fucking but so we kind of just forged this idea like, well, let's try and do these records.
When you first thought about Adam and the Ants, did you think, nah, that's too hard? You didn't think that?
We didn't think that until we started learning. And then we just shoved on through, and now I know every single note on that thing.
Because, Thelonious will try anything. We tried amp music one time, and even we wouldn't try to perform it in front of people. It's so hard.
It's really hard, and it's really specific, and it's really ahead of its time. And I know it created a huge counterculture genre movement at the time, but I think it has since been overlooked.
Well, I always say Adam and the Ants brought sexy back, just like Justin Timberlake claimed to many decades later.
right.
Who?
It was because punk rock wasn't very sexy. You had the Clash, the Jam, Sex Pistols. Not a lot of sex appeal in there. All of a sudden, this guy came along.
I do a radio show next to Jonesy every day.
Not a lot of sex appeal. But
It was a
but
little-
you know what I mean? It was like sex was back in punk rock. Adam and the Ants.
Yeah, so he invented
And
this whole
outfits.
culture of this like swashbuckling, like
Very, very pirate-esque.
pirate charming.
That's what I
caricature.
remember. The pirate.
Yeah, pirate.
Yes.
Yeah. But and then to do the Velvet Underground record, which was a massive soundtrack to my drug use and also an influence to me musically. And so if I was either getting high listening to it, or I was trying to emulate it as a musician.
Let's debrief about that record for a second.
Sure.
I started listening to it when I was like 13. I don't know about Shelly, but
little
I didn't
later,
really
18.
know. I wanted to know what some of the lines were about, like up to Lexington 125. Did you really didn't know what it meant when you were listening to it?
No.
No,
But
I
then
didn't
I
know.
found myself on Lexington with this guy following him to go get drugs, and I was like, oh my God. I was like
Here you
23.
are.
I was like,
Yeah.
this is it.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought that Nico was just the most amazing person, and that record, I still put that record on, and I still have an effective sort of romance with that record because it is so beautiful. The sound of that record is so beautiful. You could put on any note and I can pull that memory right out of there. It just has so much feel to it. And it's so beautiful. And I loved how she sang. And, you know, I never was a singer, but I really loved the way that she sang.
You sang with Keith Richards. How are you not a singer?
What?
Well,
she sang with Keith Richards.
But I'm not a singer, okay? I'm not a singer, Bob, okay?
Well, neither is he, but...
That's what I'm saying. Right. I mean, I don't...
Is there a story there we need to hear?
There's a huge story.
Yeah, we need to hear this.
Okay, so there was, there was this big
Graham
benefit
thing,
and big Graham Parsons thing. But I didn't sing with him, like, on the mic. It was just all of us, you know, singing.
You were singing Wild Horses?
You were singing Wild Horses.
She sang Wild Horses with me.
It wasn't like me and Keith, like, hey.
With Shelly's We Are the World moment.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Oh, my God.
Speaking of
that was, like, one of the best moments ever.
Speaking of that Velvet record and Nico, the voice of Nico, in the 1991 Lollapalooza, when we were touring with Susie and the Banshees, I used to go out and join them and play All Tomorrow's Parties.
Oh my God.
With Susie Sue singing it. You should YouTube that one day. And that I got chills. I got chills now thinking about it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Number again, remind everybody, if you're listening, you're watching, 323-649-8268. We're screening your calls right now. Can we just stop and take a beat?
We could just nerd out on music all day.
There was hidden in all that nerding was an amazing addiction story that everyone missed because you guys take it so for granted. Where the drug addict is so excited because a lyric in a song is coming true while he's going to shoot heroin.
I'm living it.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's no surprise.
But when you've sung along with a record about something you really don't understand, and then you realize what it is, it's a profound moment.
And then you understand it.
I want you to understand. The non-addict would go, oh, man, I'm going to shoot drugs, and that's what it meant. Instead of, holy crap,
there was a time, because I knew the song Heroin before I had done heroin.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So there was a time when I finally heard the song Heroin after having done it.
Or on it.
Or on
it.
And I got it.
Yeah, bingo.
I got it.
Yeah, Yahtzee.
Not like, oh, damn, I ended up here. It's like, I've ended up here.
Well, it's almost like, receiving some kind of...
it's such a drug addict thing.
Some kind of...
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
So good. It's too good.
It's always like some kind of sacrament.
But, well, that's interesting. Sacralizing all that.
Yeah.
It's true. There's a whole ritual and sacred quality to these people.
No, I got a
doing
thing
that.
about that, about drug addiction. People need sacrament. They need ritual.
Yeah.
And we had rejected religion as just en masse, the punk rock generation, right?
Across the board.
Across the board. And so drugs became like I remember, especially being over at your singer's house, it was very ritualistic.
Yeah, which
It
singer?
was like religion.
Actually, either one, probably.
There you go.
So tell them the details. Where do they go?
So the
Sold
tickets
out
are
by
available.
now, isn't it?
No,
It's gotta be.
I don't know. But
Well,
tickets.
I hope I still get tickets.
I can hook you up.
Can you?
I know
You
somebody.
can sing in the "We Are the World" moment.
Yes.
Of dog.
Yes.
Dog.
You can go to livenation.com. You can go to ticketmaster.com. It's called Above Ground, and the proceeds go to Music Cares, which are putting doing a lot of work.
They're
with
branching
the
out
mental
into
health.
mental health now, Drew. You know that.
And
I
I
did not
have
know
some
that.
resources for mental health treatment.
You do.
I do.
You're going to share them with us?
Yes, I will.
Okay, good.
Let's take a call first. I got a call in here, and let's see what this is. It doesn't seem to be. Hi there.
No, that's the.
Oh, that's the screener. Okay.
Well, we can talk to her. What question does she have for Dave?
Return to screening. 800. Oh, the number again here with us.
It's not an 800 number. It's a
323-649-8268. But let's talk about the sort of the spiritual bankruptcy that we sort of see in this country, and we're sort of starting to connect the dots between the opiate addiction, the shootings, the homelessness. It's all sort of coming under the same umbrella. If you really think about it,
that chronic emptiness that I talk about, the chronic emptiness that needs fulfillment, and how do we do that?
But there are symptoms that are beyond me, which is, that I and my friends have been talking about for about 3 years, and you brought it up: forgiveness. Democracies are based on compromise and kind of forgiveness, and let's move forward. And now we are a society that does not forgive.
But what you're saying though is it require a common something. idea, rallying cry, something.
I thought it was America and democracy, Drew, but apparently that's up for debate.
No, it was a random idea. It was an idea. The idea of equality and the Bill of Rights, and these were ideas, the whole thing. And we were all bound together. By now, no one even knows what those are. They don't study them. They don't have a civics class. They don't understand why we're all together on one continent. It's an idea. We're the only country founded on an idea. Do you know that?
Well,
all other countries are founded on a history, an ethnicity, a war, a something. We, with a bunch of guys, got together and said, we have an idea, idea of how to form a government, and let's get these ideas together.
Based a lot about slavery, how to have a union where half of the population.
No. Now you're going off. They got their ideas actualized by making a contract with the devil, by doing a horrible compromise that they should have dealt with in the beginning, and they didn't, and then there's a war over it later. They compromised, and that was Hamilton. Hamilton was so hell bent on getting everything passed that he just said, "All right, we'll figure it out. Let's just figure it out."
But what do you think the predominant issue is that is keeping America sick?
I have this feeling. Help me flush this out.
Sure.
I feel like something happened in the 60s and 70s that we've just not recovered from. And I think it affected our families. It affected our spiritual landscape somehow. I'm not sure what I mean by that necessarily, because I'm sort of weak on that topic. But I feel the emptiness and the lack of something. Something's missing. And I think we dug deep into narcissism and explored the limits of freedom with a narcissistic intent.
And perhaps a familial, national, parasympathetic nervous system damage in a PTSD kind of way.
I don't know that we can sell that to people, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And I don't disagree.
Okay,
I don't disagree. Okay. I don't disagree at all, in fact.
I'm just thinking.
Here's how you sell it.
I'm not even selling it.
You want to sell it?
Yeah.
Something's wrong with our hearts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I feel it.
And the solar plexus.
Yeah. Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's that region that the parasympathetic nervous system delivers information from the body, and the body is injured and dysregulated, and we can't get it together. We can't. And so we start looking for ways to avoid the emptiness and the dysregulation.
And then actually taking what is chronically upsetting within self and then projecting it onto others.
I've been dealing with that more lately. I got to say, I've been thinking about that more lately. Explain what you mean by that.
Projection,
Yeah.
I feel that a lot of this is our global projection. And
well, let me define what this is. When you're primitive and narcissistic and can't manage your own feelings, you tend to project them out into the world by various ways. One of the very primitive ways is the way borderlines do it. They project it into you.
Into somebody
They
else.
project into your body. So
yeah.
when you're around people and you feel that, what the hell, I'm upset. Why am I upset? Well, that's his or her feelings that you're getting.
Coming into you.
Think very interpersonally, Dave, and you'll get it.
But I do understand that, and I do know when I'm inherently feeling less safe.
But you want to rescue those people and calm them down and serve them,
No, that's
right?
me. That's me.
That's me.
That's me,
You
Shelly.
do.
Yeah.
I want to.
I don't.
I'm talking about when projections are happening to me, I can pick up on them and feel.
And what
less
do you
safe.
do? What does it inspire you to do? Flee or
Yes.
deal with? Flee.
Well, usually flee.
That's not uncommon. That's a sort of a common thing.
That's like a protective nature.
Yeah, because it's different if it's a situation where I know what the specific cause or the root of an issue, and I can be of service in that area. But if it's just in a random public setting.
No,
and
I'm talking real intimate
but
friends, right? That are
no.
acting irrational.
Then I want to
fix.
I want to help,
And then,
fix.
but-
guide, because there's a certain point where first
know
of all,
better. You know better.
can't fix,
Right.
and in a second,
You can try like hell.
yeah, and if someone doesn't want to help themselves, I certainly can't help them.
Right.
So that's that. There's a limit on that. That is, I have a boundary that's very strong about how far I'm willing to go when it comes to that.
When I used to explain to people that fleeing feeling, I would say, when I was early in my career, I used to imagine like a cartoon where they go through the wall and there's like a cutout of the person running out of the room.
Oh,
That was what I in my head
Yeah,
imagined.
that's what I look like half the time.
That's how I feel at Starbucks.
Well, you sound so healthy, Dave. You
that's
sound so healthy.
really
I
working
love
on
it.
sounding that way.
You sound really healthy.
I've learned a lot of words.
I mean, I haven't seen you in a while, but you look so healthy and you sound so healthy. I'm so happy
I would
for
like
you.
to invite you. I would like to invite you to join this space and manifest some new experience with me.
Okay.
That's all you got to say. That kind of stuff.
But in terms of
I'll
manifesting,
work on that.
Does this involve meditation and yoga
Yes.
and drops? Are there
Yes.
drops
yoga.
involved in this?
They're with drops. What do you, I don't know. What
In the water that'll make you healthy or whatever it is.
I don't know what those are.
Oh.
leave Dave alone. We're all in agreement what the sort of the nature of the problem is. Even though,
Not hallucinogenic drops, those healthy drops like that everybody we know does.
Bob projects a lot, doesn't he?
The droppers that go into the tongue.
Yes, I have. I have
You've always been
rhodiola.
cynical.
No, I've never-
Dave's always been cynical like me about that stuff.
Well, it's
I have
the same thing as
rhodiola.
the guy who goes, all right, now let me move your arm. And then, and then he does
Hold
something.
this sugar.
And he goes, now I'm really moving it. Like,
I did that.
Yeah, the guy pushes
I did
harder
that.
is what happens.
I thought so, maybe.
I think he does.
But you know
Do you
what?
know-
I got
Drew
a lot of
knows
calcium
none
out
of
of
this,
it.
right?
I've
there
seen-
are these people, these parasitic spiritual nutritionists that feed on
I have
rock
seen
and
it.
roll people, right?
Yes.
And they have you
Oh,
hold,
that was
hold,
it? It was that it
hold
was rock and roll?
hold sugar, and try to push your arm down,
It
right?
wasn't
It's
Exactly
about-
right. That's
For me,
exactly
it
what
was
he's talking about.
calcium. Okay, I don't know who they're going to, but it was calcium for me, magnesium. I was
So it worked for
dangerously
you?
low on those types of
all
minerals.
I ask everybody, but this is
You
more.
can get blood work
I
to
didn't-
figure that
I
out.
didn't need any sugar, trust me.
Okay, two things. Our viewers are complaining about us jumping on each other, so we
sorry.
got to watch that. Secondly,
One person complained.
we sound like her now. Secondly, I've heard all that, seen all that, and what I ask everyone to please do,
Yes.
just ask whomever is advising you to simply sketch out the stoichiometry, the chemistry that they're suggesting. Just sketch it out, just the basic chemistry, not the
Right.
the advanced mechanisms whereby the repair occurs. Just the basic chemistry you're proposing.
That's going to weed out
And
98.8%.
100%.
100%.
And then I will
folks.
ask them about the thermodynamics. I will ask them about that. So.
But Bob, I will answer your question that I have since we used to hang out. I have had a bit more Kool-Aid than you would think.
Okay.
I'm still cynical.
Okay.
But I'm a little bit
No, I
deeper.
can feel it because
Yeah.
once you have, I know your backstory. When you come from trauma, whatever coping mechanism you used, and Dave, I always say, is the funniest guy I've ever known, right? So that's a defense mechanism. He's always making jokes. You're always deflecting away,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And a lot of times what I love about you is self-effacing comedy.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't expect from someone
Right,
like
right,
you.
right, right.
But it's a way of keeping himself in a box and away from people, which he's done an excellent job of for almost 35 years.
And let's remind everyone that the documentary.
Yeah, Morning Sun, which is
Yeah.
a film about my mom's murder and the process that I went through trying to recover from that.
All right, let's take call question 4, Dave. This is from somebody named Mary. Mary?
Mary?
Hello.
Hey, hey.
This
Hi,
is
Mary.
such a lame question.
There are no
Since
lame
you,
questions.
Wait till you hear
talking
the
about
answer.
spirituality,
Go ahead, Mary.
Does your Catholic school upbringing, even though it was short, have anything to do with it now? Do you reflect back on that
No,
for help, or did it make it worse?
It didn't. My Catholic school, the school itself didn't impact me in any which way in terms of where I'm at today. I don't identify as a Catholic, but listen, if there's a set of rules that people believe in that bring them happiness,
Well, I was going to say, even now,
I don't-
even you with your punk rock rejection religion would argue, I think today, that if somebody gives somebody a sense of fulfillment and
Yeah.
just from a pragmatic standpoint, fine.
Well, no, I'm back big on Catholicism because they take a vow of poverty, which I would like to see some of these evangelicals do. Right?
okay, but that's more of a
it's
more
not
of a political
thing.
issue.
That means that their motivation is to live through Christ. I like that.
Sure.
I never know when somebody's coming off a Learjet whether they're really truly living through Christ.
Well, one would argue that they're on their way to spread the word.
And they need a jet.
And they got to get there
They
quickly.
got to get there quick.
Hey, Mary, Mary, did your experience affect you? Mary,
It has now. It's starting to back. It's coming back again.
is
Coming
it
back.
I forgot
Negatively.
about it all these years.
negatively or positively?
No, in a good way.
Okay.
In a good way. That's what's happening to a lot of punk
Yeah, I
rockers.
hear that. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
People returning to, and not just Catholicism, but in a lot of different ways, going back to or returning to or restoration to what they maybe left behind to move away from, to investigate other types of experiences.
Well, truly, what I think is a lot of the trauma that happened to a lot of people in Catholic school upbringings.
Of course.
was the messenger, not the message.
Of course, yeah.
In a lot of those cases.
I think that's a great point.
So, you know, and then a lot of people had some really tough messengers. And so they
That's a
have,
nice way of saying
have,
it.
A nice way of
have,
saying it.
have
That's
looked
very
at
nice.
the entire faith as something to be afraid of, as a fearful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, having some distance from it, it's faith, and however faith works in somebody's life that brings them fulfillment, as you say, I'm totally supportive of.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really none of my business what brings other people
Exactly.
their wholeness and their beauty and their grace.
The Pope that died that was so popular, which one was the John, the last one? He had an encyclical where he said, faith and reason are the two wings upon which humans contemplate truth or something like that. But the point is he was struggling, allowing both.
Yeah.
And help us, you know, ascend to meaning using whatever we have available to us.
I think we are progressing. I do. I feel we are progressing globally, slowly,
I don't know.
but we're
I don't know
progressing.
either.
It seems like it's getting more divisive to me.
Okay.
Well,
But-
I don't want the people that are progressing to do something that I think a lot of people do, which is just withdraw. Because the society is so sick.
will tell
we
you-
need to be soldiers in the society and show what grace is like, what forgiveness looks like, how it actuates. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are just. I get it, that. Like,
I would agree, yeah.
I just
forget it.
came back from a week-long retreat, as you know, where I was in workshops on forgiveness.
Wow.
Wow.
7 hours a day.
That's fantastic.
Just, I mean, it was essentially rehab for people who are, you know,
Guilty.
well, who have forgiveness issues. Well, they offer all
Trust
types
issues. I would
of
say-
services, but the number one person that I had to work on was myself.
That's usually the way it
That
goes.
was the tricky one. So
Yeah.
you write down the list. And then it comes to you, and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
they didn't
forget
tell me
it.
this
Yeah,
on the
forget
flyer
it. No, they
that I had to
didn't.
look at my
Right.
own stuff."
No.
But it was
They never tell you that on the flyer.
no. I would never.
So when
thought.
is this movie? Where can I see this Mournful Sun?
Oh,
Morning
right,
Sun.
Right
Morning
now.
Sun.
Right
Oh,
now.
no,
Where
it's
is
on
it?
everything. It's
on Avalon, on
iTunes and Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Amazon. Okay,
Yeah,
I want to
yeah,
see
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh, it's good. I'm surprised we didn't.
We haven't seen it.
You didn't tell me the other night. I didn't know. How long has it been out?
I was there talking to you. I was having you on to talk about you. Hey, Bob, let me tell you about these projects I got going on.
Wait, hey, Dave, was it the?
Not exactly
I know
how it
I know the. Huh? It's MOURN. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not-
morning.
It's a play on the
Morning.
words. That's what I want to get at. It's-
So,
Okay.
have you seen it?
yeah.
And gosh, I got to see it tonight.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I can get it on my phone right now.
I
Actually,
can-
through
I
my
can-
Amazon
I-
Plus.
You should watch
account.
it right now. I can send you the link though. You don't have to. You don't have to.
No, I have the membership thing.
Okay, you got
You
it.
just got to technically know how to do it. But so what? For people, just I don't think a lot of people know how long it drug on for, from when your mom's death happened to the guy. I remember I was with you when the guy was out on a windowsill in Texas.
That's right.
That
That's
is
right.
that was like 15 years later.
It
How
was
long
insane.
was it?
So
This thing drug on.
Yeah,
Drew.
know,
the
I
murder
know.
took place in 1983. My mom was killed by her then boyfriend, which again, definite signs of mental illness that were overlooked, especially in the 80s, and there was not a whole lot of resources that we knew of. And when the murder took place, this guy went on the run, and he was gone for 8-9 years.
It's crazy, man.
Like took
Just
off.
disappeared.
Well,
So-
in this video, he goes back and visits him.
Oh, yeah, I go back to the jail
Wow.
and visit him.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So, if you want to talk about it, a feeling of unsafety for
Wow.
a decade of my life, like you know.
Oh,
what I
you
mean?
didn't know where he was?
No.
Oh my God.
No. And he's going to come after me. He's going to come after my family. He's going to,
God.
So we didn't know. And so, yeah, the film really kind of focuses on all of that and just the trauma. I mean, because, the one thing that people don't think about when it comes to those kinds of violent crimes is that, there's the loss, but you have to table the loss because now instead of mourning, you're going down to the police station to answer a bunch of questions.
Okay.
And then there's security, and then there's,
How old
fear.
were you then?
I was 15.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
So it's like, the family doesn't come over and you mourn together. It's just autopilot. That's
You
why
have to
I
go
feel for
into
these
action.
Parkland people who are now all of them
Political.
trying to deal with their loss, but they have this whole movement of this whole arrangement of things that they have to do to put things into place because there's no room for grieving.
Isn't that what a lot of people do though in mourning? They try to avoid it and get
for
into.
Sure.
When my mom died, everyone was so focused on food, like who's bringing what food afterwards.
Yeah,
and I was
that's how
she's
people
fucking
manage
dead.
it.
Yeah. My mom is dead. Anybody gonna ask me how I'm doing?
Yeah.
They're all talking about food.
Yeah, it's a way to deflect some of the pain because it's intense. I mean, it's very intense.
And a lot of people aren't comfortable addressing it to someone in mourning. They don't know. They don't have those tools.
It makes me. I'm still thinking a lot about what we do in this country we're in right now, and it makes me wonder if that's not a good thing, where people are able to deflect. Not have to really dig into the intense stuff that we're all used to dealing with and we're okay with, and use a symbol. I'm caring for you. Here's some food.
And I think that is part of it as well.
We could use a little bit of that everywhere.
How are you doing would be nice.
I'm with you. No, I'm with you. But I'm
put it with the other fruitcakes over there.
My head is still in the solution thing. What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know what the answer is.
Well, in my mom's case, we're not going to smoke. How about that?
Well, I just lost my uncle
and then we won't
to
be
diabetes.
Diabetes.
I just lost my uncle to diabetes through a heart attack because the diabetes over the years was left relatively. It was treated, but not well enough.
Well, people don't understand that diabetes. How diabetes does is damage. It's a vascular disease.
Yes,
it causes microvascular destruction of all kinds of structures, and then the coronary arteries and the cerebral vascular arteries get involved, and the kidney arteries.
So we've been dealing with a lot of loss in our family this year. My grandmother also passed away in March. And, I've just been working with my mom to try to move in a direction of talking.
So her brother and mom died?
Yeah, in the same year. And we had the estate to deal with. We had the probate to deal with. We had all that stuff. And, for the most part, I've just been walking my mom through some of the feelings that she's having and the anger and, just trying to help normalize that process you go through. Because people don't know there's a process. And they don't know where they are in that process. And my mom doesn't know why she's getting angry with her grandson.
Right. So
and has no idea why she feels so dysregulated. She's depressed.
So we're very naive about. We've sort of pretended emotions don't exist or don't have needs. We've sort of pretended that that's all some sort of something we've grown past. We're in the modern life now where these things that's incidental. That's not as important.
Well, the Kubler-Ross book helped me a lot over the years. I don't know if somebody ever helped you. Stages of Death. Okay. Right. I didn't read it. It was in college. Somebody suggested to me. I had it. I like it. And I read it. Then she died, and you'll love this as a joke. I thought, is her husband reading this book right now? But I've suggested it to people who've lost people, especially parents who have lost their child to addiction. They just, been there, done that, or I don't need that. Well,
not only that,
you can't share great stuff because people are so.
I feel like there's a worse resistance, which is, I read about her stuff. They say that's not true, or they say I've read about it, and people get she was not right. It's
on the internet, they say Kubler-Ross isn't true.
Right, and so people get these.
Some of it didn't apply to me, but definitely some of it was spot on. Why wouldn't you be trying to find something?
I'll be open to learning. That's what we need.
That's true, but also sometimes being like the son of a dead loved one, I took on the role of the identified traumatized person. Mm-hmm. So someone handing me a book like that would punctuate and underline me feeling as like, oh, you're the identified traumatized person. Right. You're the different one. Right. You're the weird one. Okay. And it was and that's a reality that happens.
All right. So, but what was missing, I would argue, and what is missing overall, and I've talked about this, is the ability to tolerate closeness. Because if you could get close to somebody who was not also a drug addict or identifying with your BS at the time.
Right.
Someone who just was there with you and for you, you might have moved through that.
For sure.
And that's how we
Drug
change.
Addicts don't associate with those types of people, Drew. Not really.
Well, we don't even know them.
I know.
I know.
Well, I wasn't a junkie back then. But at 15, I wasn't.
Yeah. No, but by the time...
Oh, by the way, one of the huge mistakes we made around that time was we decided that adolescent was the repository of all wisdom. They know best. We don't... He's doing fine. He seems fine.
Yeah.
Then 16,
we did?
In the 60s? You kidding? That was all adolescent.
No, he was in the 80s.
Not my family.
I'm saying, but after the 60s, 70s, we decided, hey, man, look what we're doing on college campuses right now. These are people that can't wipe their butts, and we're looking.
They can't pay their cell phone bills, but we're going to live according to them.
And they are determining the philosophical sort of tone of this country right now. That is insane. That's insane. I want to hear from them, and that they have value, but to say they're the repository of all that is wise, no. I'm sorry. They're good and they mean well, and I love to hear from them.
They have a lot of passion.
It's interesting though, because today on Chris Wallace, did you happen to see that this morning? They had a father from Parkland who lost a daughter, and then they had a young girl who was a student, and the father, understandably, was so full of rage and anger, and was just like, "We got to fix the system. We got to fix the system."
Yeah.
The girl was making a lot of sense. So as much as I agree with what you're saying about the age differences and us trying to listen to them and take their words to heart, she resonated more with me because she was, at her age, coming from an emotional place,
which is
that
another,
had to me was more powerful.
And I also agree with you that we need to look to other generations than the ones that are walking around right now, because we're the problem.
Well,
I agree with that.
See that. I
did
see that this morning. I did,
Yeah.
and she had a sense about her of a lot of wisdom.
Yes,
she really did, and I thought that she did a great job around her, containing her own.
Is that the blonde one or the shaved head one?
The blonde one. The blonde one with glasses.
Yeah, because they're attacking and saying it was staged and they were actors. There's all the right wing wackos, and she just went back at them on BuzzFeed live. She was amazing.
She's been amazing,
right?
She's really great.
The father is so brave too, being in the state that he's in, to go on and
really,
discuss.
Just let's stop for a second. There's really people that think that that's faked.
Well, they
How
still think
stupid are people?
Projection.
I mean, that's like Alex Jones land. You know what I mean?
But there's a lot of them.
I know.
But you guys, we need to start not being tolerant.
I just called them
Bob's
stupid.
good at that.
Yeah, not being tolerant. Because you know what? That opinion, invalid. And we're not going to listen to you. Shut up. Get them out of here. The person that's making these kids feel worse, that they're
I need
actors.
to adopt some of
Right.
that
But
attitude.
it's a term.
Get out of here.
It's a
Scram.
term.
Get out of
It's
here.
a term like they're actors or something.
Who would say such a thing under these circumstances?
These evildoers.
Bob comes up with evildoers.
This aggression
Wow.
So we're
will
going to
not
talk
stand,
about
man.
this segues into Andrew Breitbart.
Okay, so hold on. Hold on. We got to take a break. But I would also argue that those evildoers, so-called, are welcome on the ship with the rest of us. But until they get their crap together, I'm sorry. No, we don't
I'm
have
an
time for you
expert
right now.
at how to
we
treat
have
people
to literally,
nastily. No, they don't get on the ship at all.
We have to become here's my bottom line. We have to become pragmatic, right? When we're ideological, first thing that happens is we can't see each other's point of view because we're stuck in our ideologies. Second thing that happens, we're very much prone to being manipulated by propaganda. Bring the world's expert in. Bring the world's expert in. Russian comes on in and starts doing it. We got to get out of ideological camps into pragmatic
Question
solution.
for you, though.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, we had the right, we had the left, same
Yeah.
as we do now.
Yeah.
And it almost felt safer to be able to disagree.
Yeah.
Why is it that now it's hatred and distrust and disgust instead of like we honor your choice to have a different view?
We become ideologically entrenched, so we've refused to look at anything other than our own sort of echo chamber ideology of the world.
But it becomes like pack mentality.
It becomes like the way 2-year-olds behave. Yeah, right. That's what 2-year-olds do. I want my way.
It's like gangs now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's start.
Breitbart
Let's take a break, and Breitbart when we get back.
All right, right back.
Friends at Bergamet are back. It's, of course, a brand that's made an impact on us here. It makes a variety of supplements. They use the extract of the bergamot citrus fruit. It's full of polyphenols. It's a supplement that acts as a natural statin and may improve a number of cardiovascular conditions and fatty liver disease, as well as potentially high blood pressure and other things associated with the metabolic syndrome. Now the makers are bringing you a formulation called Bergamet Sport that provides all the same cardiovascular benefits, but with some additives designed to aid athletes and those with an active lifestyle. Bergamet Sport may help improve stamina as well as reduce recovery time and muscle inflammation. In an ongoing study, professional soccer players were asked to use Bergamet Sport, and the documented improvements have been impressive. I use the product. First Lady of Love uses the product, the Bergamet Femme. Physicians and cardiologists around the world are recommending it. For a limited time, our listeners can save 10% on their order by entering the code DRDREW at checkout. That's Dr. Drew at checkout, all one word. To try Bergamet Sport for yourself, visit bergamet.com. That is BERGAMET.com. Or also you can click on the Bergamet banner at drdrew.com. Be sure to talk to your physician before you use any Bergamet products. In fact, before you use any product or supplement, be sure to talk to your doctor. And we are back. Again, that number is, I'm going to get it right for you guys, 323.
632
something. No. 649-8268.
8268. We should just stream it across the bot. There it is. It's right up on the board.
All right, well, that's,
okay.
Nate knows what he's doing. Right?
So, we're going to pick up with Breitbart.
All right, what's the deal?
So, Dave and I were talking before the show about a show that Jane's Addiction Thelonious Monster played for fathers' rights in what, 1988?
89. That was for a member of Fishbone.
Norwood. His girlfriend had taken off with their kid, the father had no rights. Right? Andrew Breitbart was a part of that. Do you know that?
No, you're kidding me.
Yes, Andrew Breitbart was a college student, liberal, who hung out with, Norwood knows him really well, right?
You got to understand something.
It's crazy. He lived near you in Westwood.
So he's
the guy who invented it, but he was a liberal.
One of us?
He helped with the father's benefit.
Well,
you gotta be kidding me.
Wait,
no.
Drew's going to explain it.
No, I'm not going to explain it. I knew Andrew. And he was a very reasonable person, a pragmatist. He was a true liberal, a liberal in the sense that this is a Western liberal society we live in. The far left and the far right have taken over from all of us. Now, his thing started in a more almost a sort of libertarian sort of point of view. That was really his thing. But it went off, and he died. And he was one of the greatest guys, so smart. And really, no one I know didn't like him.
Can we look up what year? How old was he in '89, Drew? Since he died, he was 43. You know that the guy who started this died years ago.
I didn't know that.
So it's been taken over by Bannon and these whack jobs. And
but I was just getting to know him when he died. It was really terrible, and he just seemed like the greatest guy. And I was a little surprised, frankly. He mostly wanted to sort of. He was fighting the very stuff we're talking about.
So what caused the shift in this guy?
He died.
He didn't really shift.
He died.
He was fighting ideological entrenchment.
Right.
And they, how when you do that, they make you the bad guy. They make you this. They call you the worst thing. You're a Nazi or whatever.
He was 20 years old in 1989.
Oh my God,
it's crazy.
And so he started fighting back, and when he fought back, it made him look a little more whatever. But I didn't know him well. I don't know the story well, but that was my sense of it at the time.
But it has become so fringy.
It went over. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so that all happened after he died.
Seems to have.
So it's similar to how iPhones are now terrible after Steve Jobs died.
Yes.
The Tim guy makes the batteries run down, so you'll buy a new one.
Unbelievable. It's almost like the day he died, Apple just became terrible.
How many updates have you gotten in the last 3 months? 3.
I've gotten 4 since I've been here.
And I refuse to
It's
update.
The worst.
So let's stay in the solution again. What are we going to do?
Okay.
What are we going to do, guys? What do we do here?
So, look what happened. Because, so if Andrew Breitbart was representing the radical center, which is what I'm
that's really what he
proselytizing,
was.
the radical center, right? Mm-hmm. He was being crucified and being called a alt-right by the left because he was criticizing college campuses and all the wacky far left stuff that goes on. He then obviously had to congregate with some people.
Yes.
Right?
It pushed the camps.
He was first at Huffington Post, and then he started Breitbart.
But Huffington Post still leans pretty left.
No, everybody went.
Ariana Huffington was a Republican, if you've lived long enough to remember.
I remember. I knew her. I knew her reasonably well.
Wow.
And she was all about family values and things like that.
But I'm talking now.
I was backstage with her.
But maybe the right and left have pulled us so out of whack we don't know where the center is
That's
anymore.
why when you ask the question, where do we start? It has to start with ourselves on an individual basis.
Okay, so
That's exactly what I
Voltaire
thought.
said that in the end of Candide. He said, "Il faut cultiver nos jardins." Take care of your garden, which to me is a bigger piece than just the plot of land.
I may not agree with what you have to say, but I defend to the death your right to say it.
Right. And so
Voltaire.
All right, Voltaire.
Yeah, and which is also kind of what we're talking about, right? The freedom to speak, and we want you to speak, but take care of your family, your community, your garden, your immediate region. I think I agree with that wholeheartedly. But what you really forget about Ariel Huffington, remember Mike Huffington?
Yeah, he was a Republican
turned out
senator.
he was her husband, and it turned out he was gay, and it was a scandal. Do you remember this whole thing?
I don't.
And then she started her own little post. I was backstage with her at the late night show back when it was Keith
Olbermann?
No, somebody else before Ferguson. Before it was way back.
Okay,
and we were backstage, and I was talking about stuff like this. I was talking about people caring for each other and closeness, and she goes, "That's it. That's what we got." I'm so glad you're talking about this. That's what I want. That's what I want to get behind. And then she became Huffington Post.
I mean, it really does have to start. In my humble opinion, it does have to start with being kind to one another and to have a sense of whatever your sense of faith or connection is, or connectedness to other human beings. And working on your own self-love, self-care, self-forgiveness.
I'm wondering,
it sounds really airy and spiritual.
No, but it's very practical. It's very practical.
But it's like we were talking about the other night, Bob. Service.
Yeah.
Yes.
If service becomes our number one priority,
then nothing's a chore. Everything is a projection of my own internal world.
But it would create a massive global shift if everybody made that their priority.
Yeah,
selfless service, not Jolie's type service where you're.
But that's why getting
right.
Simple little acts of service, simple acts.
But getting good with yourself and in that self-forgiveness. As we project as human beings onto others, we project what it is that is internal. If we took care of our internal life and our internal world, we would not project violence and rage onto others, and we would not try to take advantage and microaggress towards everyone else if we internally were working on ourselves. So I think the key is to go inward first
100%.
and then move outward with that internal landscape that is compassion, joy, and forgiveness.
And
love.
here's the difficult challenge, because that work is individual. For what works for one person doesn't work for the other person, right? And so everybody here in this room has their version, their practices, whatever it is. Bob and I see things very differently in terms of like the great beyond, but they're a lot closer than you would think if you really break it down. But one thing works for him, one thing works for me, and it keeps us.
We were talking about
in a good
Gloria
space.
Scott, right? So I was having all this trouble. Dave and a bunch of friends were trying to help me for years, and I was so argumentative about God. So then I went to the person who didn't believe in God, and I said, how do you make AA work for you? And she told me, and I adopted that, and I've been sober ever since.
Tell us.
That you replace the God concept with service, right? Now, it's a jip. It works really good, but it's much easier just to pray than to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning every time somebody asks.
Right.
So service keeps you occupied, which she was OCD and type A personality and narcissist. I am. It worked for me. It works for me because it distracts me away from being destructive with my OCD and narcissism. It's just like I go into this mode where, like, oh my God, we got to figure this out, like Sherlock Holmes.
But there's also built-in loopholes such as progress, not perfection, which is to remind us that we are in fact human, and to not have expectations.
Too much expectations.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like allow yourself to be human.
Well, I think a lot of us with PTSD and trauma have a really hard time being patient with ourselves and forgiving ourselves because our wiring just didn't get that message coming in. When we were in very formative aspects of our functioning, we were not given the appropriate sort of parameters to which to experience the type of environments that make brains think certain ways. And so we all kind of come together now as post, working through a lot of these issues. And I think we can see things now with a lot of hindsight about what stages of development we were, sort of traumatized at that aspect.
I just feel like four of us know what you're talking about, but I feel like we got to come up with something that the average person really gets.
Okay, then I need some money.
Like you want a concrete.
I need some money.
Well, like for
plan.
instance, no, I'm not sure I want a concrete plan. I like for instance, I thought that Black Panther went a long way to bringing everyone into the tent. I really thought. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it yet.
You'll love it.
I haven't seen it.
It brings people together.
Okay.
And I feel like that's the first thing. First thing is like let's acknowledge everybody's.
Well, that goes against
stuff.
everything.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. In a way.
Me and my fear of people, it does.
No, but I think things that people have been causing and reacting to things forever, and a lot of great things have come from the reaction of rejecting something. AA only exists because the Oxford group didn't work for Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson, so they went and took what they felt was good about it and made a new thing that was more flexible, more fluid, more philosophical.
I know, but Oxford Group only had 8 steps, and that's much easier to do.
You like them better.
But you had to be a Methodist, though. You had to
whatever.
8 steps.
I mean,
I think they still have 8-step program.
And we know a lot about the 12-step meetings in Los Angeles. The really good ones started as a reaction to an old one that people didn't like, and they started it on the other side. And I think right now stuff like that's going on with the Black Panther movie, and this kind of movement in one direction is a rejection of the old direction. And we live in a mob mentality where we're off with their heads, we want the people that are running the meetings that we don't like to lose their jobs. Instead of just go start a meeting that you do like and don't worry about that person.
I kind of feel like we need a new myth though to organize that. Because
people have the power. People have the power. They do, and they don't believe they think ideology has the power.
I know, or they think power is all that's important, which is the anathema. Power is not important. They think that facts don't matter. Power is all that exists. That's a very sad place to exist.
Money and fame, I think they think are very important. I don't know about
power. That's Oh no, that's postmodern.
But I mean, but the other problem is that this age of social media that didn't exist when we were coming up
we'd be dead.
I mean, it has created.
I would have killed myself.
It has created, and listen, I use social media for work and things I got to do, but it has created. It's like a viral narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Think how how insecure you were when you were 20 years old and you were in a band and it was being celebrated, and you could go online and just read a bunch of negative stuff about yourself all night long.
I would never have made it. I would never have made it.
I'm telling you,
I never would have made it.
And how these kids survive is a testament in resilience.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I have a 17-year-old, and she is on that phone. For almost
how does she deal with
everything.
Negative things? If something negative is said about her, how does she deal with it?
She has a good sense of self. She kind of doesn't care. She kind of
Does
considers
she read
the
it?
source.
Does she read it? Or?
She can read it. She considers the
wow,
source.
They're
and
making
moves away
hybrids
from it.
out there, Dave.
Because
you can't do it still
That's
to
some
this
David
day.
Icke reptilian agenda kind of stuff going on.
She has some self-esteem, right? She
Yeah.
doesn't care so much what everyone thinks. She will consider the source, but she's also open to criticism as well.
Well, be careful with the self-esteem. I think that's been overdone, right? Because what she has is a sense of self.
Okay,
and she understands her worth, and it's not a grandiose sense of worth.
But I do think that it has contributed a little bit, and this is just me humbly saying this again. A little bit has created a compare and despair lifestyle because people are only
that's envy, man, and that's narcissism.
But people are only showing a picture of them on the yacht.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're showing them a picture at the club, a picture at this amazing show, and they're putting those things up only. Or amazing, you know what I mean? And it's not the whole picture,
right?
But people go
that
through there and look
important.
at that and go, why is my life not look like this?
Yeah, and I have to say I'm guilty of the same thing. Just because I am more private, so I'll just put things that are kind of benign and nothing that's real, controversial or nothing that's real personal. Just out of fear of eliciting responses that I really can't manage.
We're getting some calls. I want to go to these calls for Dave here. Okay, this is Sierra who's been very very patiently waiting. Sierra, go ahead.
Oh.
Hey,
hi.
There you are.
Thank you.
I have a question for Dave on this recent season of the Tattoo Boss
show. I'm sorry, my boyfriend watches it, and I've been like getting really into it recently.
Okay.
Matt, I'm in love with Matt, and y'all voted him off.
That's right. He had to go. Had to go.
He was so good. And
Did he have a cool hat?
I felt like he was so good.
He was great. Have I what?
Are there any thoughts of like bringing people back on later seasons that like fan favorites?
Nah, I can't really speak to
Like
that
a fan
because we're
favorite
currently
season?
in the middle of the season. But what I can tell you is that the way that season works, the way the current season works, is worst tattoo of the day goes home. And he was a great artist, and that's part of the game. And it's, you know what? There's a lot more to just artistry in that game. It's strategy. So the other artists handed out a canvas that would be difficult for him specifically because they were playing the game, and that's why he got knocked out. Otherwise, in the real world, he's an amazing artist.
Isn't it weird? Dave
Yeah.
is the guy. He's the guy. When you got your first tattoo, was it Bob Roberts?
Bob Roberts.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody's.
And hang on,
No.
this is Josh. Shelly had to do
I
something
wish.
different. Josh, go ahead. Josh.
Hi, guys.
Shelly,
I just had a question for Dave. I was interested if he, without sharing too much personal stuff, if he was willing to kind of tell us about the framework of that forgiveness retreat, and was it all 7 days about forgiveness, or what was his epiphany, if he had it?
Wow, that is a deeply personal question, but I did bring it up. What I will say was, yes, it was every single day. It was about 7 hours a day, so we would do 3 hours in the morning, break for lunch. We'd do another 2 hours, break for dinner.
Of group or individual? What'd you do?
Of group.
Yeah.
And it was literally, I mean, you want to know what's funny is that a Cliffside Malibu commercial came on.
Inspired him to go.
Yeah. And I was like, God, I miss rehab. I was like, I really wish there was a day, you know, like a trip I could take that was like structured, but it had a beautiful view, you know, because I don't want to get loaded, but there's got to be something out there. So I researched and I found this place, and you know, it really, the idea, really the epiphany, and it's, you got to kind of go through the course to understand it, but really the idea behind forgiveness is to really unburden yourself of carrying around the negativity. It's not in any way saying that you're not okaying behaviors. Like, for instance, I'm not saying my mom's killer is off the hook and that's all cool with me. But what I am trying to work on is unburdening myself of the hate so I can walk through this world lighter.
See, and he just touched on something, Drew, which is America wants cartoon, simple, black-white solutions where that's what they think. If you go there and you can forgive him, then you're okay, and then everything's fine and happily ever after, and let's have a commercial.
But it's a
and
process.
It's not like that. Therapy's not like that. Life is not like that.
The other thing is, in order to change your feeling states and whatever else you're trying to work on, you must change. And we resist that. We are wired in such a way that change of our emotional landscape induces the same sort of pushback, same sort of defensive sort of maneuver, sometimes more so than if somebody was trying to attack our body, like cut a limb off in some sort of way. So our brain naturally fights against change. And you have to be willing to push through that. Then, however uncomfortable it is, and by the way, if your treatment is too comfortable, it probably isn't good treatment.
Yeah.
You now start looking at things. You're in a different place. So you look at things differently as you grow and evolve. You literally are looking at things like completely, I mean...
Yeah, what you used to think was a certain way, then you move away from it. You look at it from a different perspective of positivity, and I think you can see more from a positive place. I think you can see more depth.
I remember
think
in
you
therapy,
have a better view.
I remember in therapy just thinking, I used to feel that way about that.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't even bother me anymore. It doesn't I don't even think about it. It's like they used to really trouble me because whatever my own stuff was.
Yeah, having a 17-year-old is like looking at your own stuff just manifesting into you know, and everything I look at, I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good thing. Ooh, that one. Well, where? Yeah, I could feel that inside me. Yeah, that's there. Okay, how do I treat myself? So then how do I treat her? Right? And so it's this relationship that you have when you have teens, and it's different than when you have little kids, because little kids are like, hey, I love you. And then teens are like, hey,
I need to get away from you.
Yeah.
What do you
Not
want?
all of them. Not all of them. I got two little ones. Sydney, and Drew pointed something out because Elvis kind of loves everybody type kid, right? Really good kid, right?
Did you get that from you?
No, I thought he did, but Drew said sometimes kids are just born a certain amiable
constitution.
Yeah. That it's not anything environmental. Sydney, on the other hand, her words like, "No, I don't like that. Get away from me. Don't touch me." You try to kiss a little 1.5-year-old baby, she's like puts her hand in your face when you're trying to kiss her.
My favorite
is that genetics too.
My favorite version of that was when Adam Carolla's daughter was 1.5 or 2, and he goes, "Come on, let me pick you up," and she goes, "Poo poo, poo poo." Like, I'm a poo poo. Don't get near me. I'm poo poo.
Well, Ivy was she's a real special little angel. So now having her as a teen, is an interesting look into the job that you do with a young child and how it comes to fruition and how they start to treat others and how they sort of actuate their own experiences in the world. And she is, she's definitely a teen up in the bedroom with, she plays guitar. She has a tailor and,
she have a lock on her door?
She does.
I see.
She does.
Nice.
Well, she earned it. I mean,
she has a lock on her door.
Yeah.
Drew has to think about locks on the doors.
But she doesn't use it that often.
Trust but verify, man.
Did you have a lock on your door when you were a kid?
When I turned on about 15. I had a lock.
Yeah.
I got a lock.
Yeah, you get a lock.
If she earned it, fine.
But tell your thing about the locks on the doors. Because kids want them, for sure.
Well, no, the parents are like, well, I give them their personal space, whatever they want.
Well, you know what it's about? It's about masturbation, Drew. That's why it is.
Many times the males, for sure.
Yeah, but I also did
not
not have
males.
No. But I mean, the males for sure.
That was a misogynist thing.
No. I'm saying the
But
women.
I didn't have the internet when I was 15.
The women being more complex.
I don't know that I'd have
lots of
the
reasons for it.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And who knows what nefarious stuff, but as long as they.
I knew when Elijah, my older son, wanted to lock on the door. You were around. He was like 12, and he was like, "Don't you think I should have a lock on my door?" And I said, "What for?"
What?
And then I started talking to Hoy about it, Chris Hoy, and he was like,
Well,
"Don't you know, Bobby?"
Come on,
I can't believe you
wake
missed
up.
that. How did you miss the
He
sign?
was
gotta
only
wake up.
12.
I was
Only
going.
12?
I was rocking at 12. I think long before.
Of course.
Oh dear, I'm from Orange County.
I don't even
interesting.
know that I knew what I was doing. I just knew that it was working.
Right, it was working, and we're going to do it more.
So
I didn't equate it as a
that.
sexual thing.
Don't you
Right.
think parents need to know about their sexuality to their teenagers, and they don't want to?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, it's challenging, I have
it's
to
tough.
say, because I'm having to walk through it, and it's very challenging to face your fears and the thing. And also I have this, this background too that sort of kind of comes out in my parenting. And I find myself yesterday, I was in my daughter's room going through the stuff, and I go, I really feel like my mother right now. I really don't want to continue. And we were just making a joke about how I just was acting like my mother, going through her clothes.
It's inevitable.
And it seems inevitable. So I'm really pushing against trying to forge
And if she
my
did something
own
good, and if
territory.
mom did something good, you can adopt it. It's okay. You don't
Yes,
have
it's-
to not be her thoroughly.
Let's go through some door knocking. Do you remember once you were playing music and you were going out with, say, a gal, and you went to her parents' house to knock on her door to take her out? What was the parents' interpretation of that?
I always was well received. I really was.
Come on.
I was.
Dude, I remember you when you were 18 when James started, right?
Yeah.
I would not want you dating my daughter.
I was just a kid.
We're learning about Bob.
but don't-
He's going way right.
I
He's
know,
going
but I
way
didn't.
right.
But I didn't. They listen. Those parents would much rather have that kid date their daughters than this one.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because at 18, I didn't know anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But Dave
But I was never
Dave,
harmful.
No, Dave
No, I wouldn't
always
say
had
harmful.
a nice disposition about him.
I was always very
Always very
courteous.
kind
I always
and
looked the
courteous.
parents in the eyes. I
Yeah.
was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You knew how to do it.
I tried. I did what I could.
So has that
At
happened to
least
you?
trying.
Has that happened?
Ivy was in a relationship for 3 years.
And
wow.
were you? Did you keep an arm's distance? Did you have an opinion?
No, of course I worked with them. I was like, okay, guys, what stage are we in now? What's going on with you?
Can you imagine
Come
having
on.
a therapist
Come on
for a
in.
mother?
Yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
crazy.
no.
God.
I was like, okay, so when you decide that you want to do this, okay, here's what I'd like to happen, and this is what I prefer, and what do you think?
But are you able to detach the feelings as a mother as you are in a
I go in my
therapeutics?
room And I go, oh my God. Oh no. And I cringe and I cringe and I cringe, but I don't want her or any teen to be hung up. I want them
hung
to
up,
be
but I do want them to be a little uncomfortable talking to their parents.
They're
about
uncomfortable.
It seems
they
normal
were
to me.
very uncomfortable.
And so what I do is I go. What I used to do is go. Okay, here I'm going to go, and you tell me when you want me to stop. and they would quickly. Enough.
Oh yeah, definitely. So they got very uncomfortable with the conversation.
That seems like a way they sort of have a boundary around all this.
Yeah.
It seems right to me.
They just shut down.
Well, they're just sort of like, okay. I said, look, and when you're ready for more, I'm ready.
But I mean,
available.
the fact of the matter is they already know it anyway.
They're pretty confused. You'd be surprised.
You think?
They know it, but look what the lessons are. It's the internet.
Oh my
it's
God,
terrible.
Yeah,
they're
that's
confused.
Well, it's such a fine line as a parent. You don't. When I was going through it, I was just like, we treat people with respect. Respect yourself. You treat the girl with respect. But then I also didn't want him hooking up and acting like they're married. You know what I mean? Because that was my tendency at 17, 18, 20.
Yeah.
So, but then you don't want to encourage them playing the field either. It's this weird place for parents.
Yeah, it's a very interesting place, but it taps into all that stuff. You go back when you were younger, and then you try to move forward, and you try to think about what you would have liked to happen. You know, how you would have liked to have been treated.
This is actually pertinent to what we're talking about. It's an email received at doctor.com/contact. It's from Charlotte. I'm currently writing my dissertation on whether counselors who are former addicts are more effective than counselors which are not.
Well, I think the addict always thinks that they can only be treated by someone who is an addict, but I don't think that's true.
She wants literature recommendations. Does anybody publish literature on this? There's tons of literature on empathic attunement. And having been an addict in recovery, it makes you automatically.
But I mean, current addicts, guys who were addicts currently got reelected. What was the Canadian guy? The crazy, the crack addict guy.
Oh yeah,
the mayor.
The mayor. Yeah.
He got reelected.
Yeah, didn't he get reelected after
at one point? Then he died.
He died.
Yeah, he's dead.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I kept saying we're watching this guy die.
Is her dissertation? She wants to be in the helping field. Is that how you're reading that?
She wants to review literature, scientific literature, on whether it is truly the case or not.
Here's Shelly. Shelly is spot on. I would also like
to review this.
I would too.
Drug addicts, no matter what, through the process, ask every single person at one time or another in a 30-day period of time if they're addicts. They ask the doctors, they ask the psychologists, they ask the nurses, they ask because addicts are looking for people that they think understand. Now, the addicts aren't in charge, luckily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But remember how I needed you guys around desperately? That for the non-addict, you can be a very effective clinician, but there are blind spots you have because you're not an addict.
Yeah.
And I used to rely on you guys very heavily for that. Because
you're pretty good at spotting it.
No, because I can remember times I would come out of these sessions. I go, Bob, somebody been in treatment for a while, and I was like, God, she just revealed to me these incredible things, and she was I
don't believe it.
And he goes, yeah, she wants to get high.
Well,
anyway,
that definitely is the point.
Yeah,
definitely.
And so I was like, oh yeah. I got to always remember that. I got to always remember that.
Yeah, they have a hard time believing that they're telling you what you want to hear,
or whatever it is that the
God, I got so good at doing
that.
Yeah. I could fill out any workbook, any
anything,
worksheet.
yeah.
Remember Exodus, how great it was?
I got so good at that place because they had these forms. He's talking about a treatment center we used to go to, and then it was like your first step form and your second step.
I remember Exodus,
and I got that so wired.
Down.
I could.
And then you had to have an answer. What's different this time?
And by the way,
everything. Everything is different.
I'll do whatever you tell me.
This time,
riddle me this, guys.
This time I'm doing it for me. I threw him that one.
So good, so good. They buy it. The door. No, I'm buying it. I'm buying it. 100%.
One at a time.
When we're telling those counselors those things, you could give us a lie detector test and we believe it.
I know.
That's the crazy thing about it.
So I don't feel so bad buying into it.
So here's where when I hear this stuff, where my head goes, and my head's been in this space a little bit. I was hearing about somebody's treatment, and it was very CBT, like you're talking about. Like this, we're gonna talk about what are you grateful for? What do you all do? List these things, blah, 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 and I just go, oh, yeah. To me, it sounds like school or something. Yeah. And yet CBT works, and I don't understand how it sustains. I don't understand it because it's on such a level that addicts are great at maneuvering that stuff.
It's an intellectualization of things that intellectualization doesn't work on.
Well,
you have to,
but it does. Though.
But sometimes it does because in order to understand what's emotionally happening, it needs to be in a concise, understandable sentence or phrase or paragraph. So,
well, let me reframe.
Do you know what I mean? So you can take this huge feeling that you can't wrap your hands around and go, oh, I'm just going through this thing right now.
Yeah,
that's all.
That makes sense to me. But to make lists about what you're going to do and all this kind of stuff. And
the treatment planning. Treatment planning.
Well, treatment planning is one thing. Is like, what are your goals and what are you going to
action? That's all the individual stuff. What's powerful is that you do it together in group therapy. And I can tell you that Exodus and Los Encinas and some of the places we work at now are good at letting the other clients do the dirty
heavy
work,
lifting.
Right? Meaning, it'd be hard for you to say, I'm doing this for me right now with me and Anthony and a bunch of other clients, and they're going, dude, oh, really?
Yeah.
Right? But when a clinician is one-on-one, they can easily believe that bullshit.
Oh, no kidding.
Right?
Tell me about it.
And so now
and I need
so
you
much
guys
treatment,
there, like, kicking my ass.
but so much treatment these days is individual
I know.
care.
That's why group
and
is so
it's
important.
client-centered. It's client-centered. And so when you have to discuss client-centered treatment with clinicians who aren't in recovery themselves, they get confused of what's client-centered.
No.
And
He's doing it for him.
And what is what?
And
That's what we've been
what
waiting
is
to
my
hear you say.
delusional system
Yeah.
that's manipulating the listener so that I can get out of this room.
All right, we got to wrap up. What now that we've sort of, this is all part and parcel to what we're struggling with.
I wonder if this is exciting for
in the world, though.
Individual, I can tell you what I'm doing. Individual care and fight the good fight to the center.
That's for addiction. What do we do for what Dave wants to get at, which is the health and spiritual
mental health
mental? Yeah,
that's what
we
I'm saying.
We need money so that we can fund.
For what?
So that I'm coming.
Well, you're talking about major mental health issues. He's talking about the sort of general spiritual
the
vacuum.
Encouragement
Go to
of
retreats,
the masses.
clearly.
The encouragement.
That's a helpful tool.
Obviously,
the encouragement of the masses to find a spiritual solution.
Okay,
right?
What does that mean? Yes, I agree.
It means that the people that are doing it need to talk about it with them and publicly, right? Instead of tell them what to think and manipulate.
Yes. So it's good again to explore religions, explore family, explore
therapy,
right?
I always say the back of your insurance card has 2 phone numbers. One says mental health and behavioral health. Call that number and say you want to talk. You want to have a therapy. They'll give you 10 sessions.
I would say, but 10 sessions.
But then you start to realize if all of us spoke more positively about therapy instead of the negative, it doesn't work.
Well,
and that
no.
Therapy saved my life.
That there's an identification that there's something wrong with you for going.
I think there's something right with people who want to have therapy.
Agreed. 100%. I would argue that something along the lines of mutual aid societies is where we need to go, because mutual aid societies like 12-Step are free and they work.
Yes,
but they're filled with all the narcissists and hateful people also. So that's I trust,
but in a weird way,
I trust the helping field.
Right. In a weird way, religion can probably solve some of that stuff.
But you're never going to get away from a group of people. There's always going to be polarizing people within any group. You get 100 plumbers together, you're not going to like a few of them.
But maybe, you know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
They're not all going to pipe the same way.
You ever see that book, Bowling Alone? You heard about this?
No.
That clubs are at an all-time low in this country. Gatherings of people. Maybe we just need more gatherings, more clubby kinds of. I hate clubs. I hate because when you have a club, there's an out. You're in, you're out. I hate that. But maybe an inclusive kind of club, more sort of look for.
Talk to your neighbors and talk to them about real shit and not bullshit.
All right. Well, we have to kind of wrap it up.
True.
I'll tell you what you can do. You can come to this concert on April 16th.
April 16th, Velasco Theater. It's called Above Ground, and and all the proceeds are going to go to Music Cares to,
Is that the same week they do their big fundraiser and stuff too? Is that? It seems like
It's right around that. It's like a couple weeks after.
It's a totally independent thing. It's around Coachella, so it's like in between the Coachellas.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Which is hopefully people will be in town.
And Billy Idol, Courtney Love, Corey Taylor, Navarro,
and other artists
Jesse
yet
Hughes.
to be named yet.
It seems like it's you at the beginning of a great group.
Yeah,
and this could be a big thing.
It's going to be.
Yeah, I wish you all the best with that.
Yeah, me
Thank
too.
you.
What started as an idea, and now I'm sitting there going, "Oh my god, we got to pull this."
When do
thing
you
off.
start practicing it?
We've started. We've
You
been doing
did?
it. Yeah, we've been learning for months. Because
Are you going to wear a pirate shirt?
Of course, I will be
Pirate
paying.
boots?
I will be paying homage.
Good.
That will not be a fluffy shirt.
The hat?
I will have
The hat?
I'll have a stripe.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
have a stripe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
God,
Gotta
Adam
have
and the ants
the
were so
stripe.
great.
So cool.
All right,
Well,
guys.
you're so great.
You are so great. We really appreciate you for being here. For
Hey,
doing
thanks,
that.
guys.
So,
You're a
Me
guy
too.
who
That's all time.
livens up a room when you walk into it,
very
David.
nice.
Yeah.
Very
Let's
nice.
keep
Thank you.
trying to
Good
struggle.
to see you.
Remind everybody, this life's courtesy of Doctor.com, where you can support the show by clicking on the Amazon banner for all your shopping needs. It keeps us around. You don't pay anything, but it keeps this wind in the sails here. Also, we like hearing from you. As you heard, I will read your emails. Go to Doctor.com/contact and send us your questions. Like us on Facebook, support our sponsors. While there, the Doctor.com, check out the other the other podcasts we have. We have a new health and fitness show called Swole Patrol with Mike Catherwood. I've got Midday Live with Lauren Savant, which is the radio show that we put out on podcast. And, of course, the Adam and Drew podcast, the Dr. Drew podcast. Check them all out. And about to do another Teen Mom reunion as well. So appreciate your comments as I go off into that. Also, find us on Twitter, Facebook, at Dr. Drew. At First Lady of Love is Susan, my wife, the producer. At Rehab Bob Forrest. At This Life Podcast. Shelly, you have a Twitter handle?
Nope.
Okay.
Good for you.
That'll do it, and we'll see you next time.
Take it easy.
Well, we're so pleased to have Hydrolite back. Hydrolite is something that we and my family use just about every day, and it is simply the best oral rehydration product I have ever seen. And there are many reasons you should keep some around. I got the flu. I relied on Hydrolite because I knew it would rehydrate me the way an IV fluid would. We all have heard about the flus and the diarrheas, and they all knock you out. Staying well hydrated is critical to getting over these conditions. Even if you manage to avoid getting infected, your schedule is half as busy as mine. Getting 8 glasses of water a day isn't likely to happen. And you don't need it if you've got the proper hydration product, Hydrolite. That is the beauty. Whether you're sick or not, you can absolutely benefit from proper balance of sodium, glucose, and water. Hydrolite does this better than a sports drink or water alone. That's right, better. And it comes in great flavors like orange, berry, lemonade. It's available in a pre-mixed powder. My personal preference is little effervescent tablets. You can simply drop in a bottle of water or a glass of water, and you're done. You got it, and you are rehydrated. And compared to sports drinks, Hydrolite delivers up to 4 times the electrolytes with 75% less sugar. I know. Don't buy into the hype of the brands. Use Hydrolite. It's a better product. I'm telling you. I had intended to invent it. They got there first, so I'm all behind them. Hydrolite solutions are appropriate for all ages, and each bottle or package includes easy-to-follow dosing instructions. Order Hydrolite today, hydrolite.com/DRDREW. That is hydrolite.com/Dr. Drew. And for a limited time, our listeners can save 30% on Hydrolite. We actually buy in bulk in our family. So we're going to click through, believe me. Just click the banner on my site and use the code DRDREW18. That is DRDREW18.
Remember, you can find all these podcasts at drdrew.com. The Dr. Drew podcast, the This Life podcast, and the Adam and Drew podcast, which is available 5 days a week. Find them all on iTunes and rate us 5 stars. Subscribe and get it first. And if you're really happy, click on the Amazon banner at drdrew.com to help support the show. We'll thank you for it. If you join the email list via drdrew.com/contact, we'll send you a weekly infusion newsletter with Dr. Drew's news. We're so grateful when you get in touch. We read all your emails and we'll bring you the subject matter you want to hear about.
You live.